You mentioned earlier that culture plays a role. How would you define culture?
Wow. So culture, first of all, I would like to say that culture is something that is dynamic. It's not static. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. Culture is all of the things that contribute to you as an individual and how you live your life. That can include what your neighborhood, it can include your race, your ethnicity, it can include your religion, spirituality, um, it can include personality traits, it can include the community that you live in, where you work, what car you drive, if you drive a car, it can include where you work, if you do work, healthcare, if you have healthcare. It just encompasses so much, and I think it's passed down from generation to generation. That's another thing to consider as well. And it's something that really can shape and mold someone.
You said culture's not static, but do you think our society wants culture to be static?
Yes, I do. I think nowadays there are so many different movements out there that it's showing that culture is not static, and it's ever evolving. So, but I don't. But I feel like because of uh, how things were presented in the past and in history, people who are not open to learning about these different evolving things are um, not ready, to accept the the change and the evolving culture. So they kind of want things to be, again, change is something that's hard for people. So they want things to be predictable, how it was when they grew up. Everybody to really be kind of putting people in these boxes. And if everybody were put in these boxes, then you know how to deal with them and handle them. But if someone is outside of the box, then you get scared or you get angry, or it evokes different emotions and things. So I do think that this society is, I mean, you think about the Constitution and politics and the government. There's a lot of antiquated laws and things that they hold on to, but the world has changed, society has changed, but they still want to hold on to these antiquated laws and that go along with the um, changes and evolving advances that are going on in society. They want to stick with the good old boys things that they have learned about. So I think definitely yes, that the society in general would like for things to stay the same.
So, what is the consequences of us maybe not embracing the cultures of others? What does that produce?
Produces a lot of hate. It produces a lot. It could produce violent acts. I mean, think about the Capitol and what happened on the Capitol on January 6th. Think about discrimination and prejudice. It just can produce disharmony. And I think if we're going to be harmonious, then we need to be able to accept and embrace that there are differences in different cultures, and that culture is evolving. There's a concept called cultural humility. So we all learn about cultural competence, right? And the issue that I have with cultural competence is that because culture is evolving and it's not static and it's dynamic and it's constantly changing, you can't be competent in culture, right? So, me and my sister, actually my sister is who introduced me to cultural humility, and it's amazing because it was created by someone in the medical field, and I'm in the medical field. She's not in the medical field, but she knew about it, and she's the one who told me about it because we're not taught this in medical school, right? And it basically takes away that hierarchy, right? It's like we are pretty much on the same field. There's no power imbalance, and you're constantly learning. So me as the doctor or the one that's the provider for somebody, how I was taught is that it's kind of a patriarchal system where I tell you this is what you need to do and then your life will be better. Well, that may be okay in, like, treating blood pressure and diabetes with the algorithms and things. But when it comes to mental health, you know, I can't tell you how to live your life. I can't tell you this is what's going to make your life better, because people are individuals. So together we can come up with this. And I think I gain a lot from the people that I treat as well. It helps me in my life. I learn a lot from my patients and their families as well. So it takes away that power and balance, and it's lifelong learning, which for people who are trained in the medical model, it's hard for them because they want to be able to get a certification and complete something, and so for it to be a lifelong learning thing and no endpoint, it's hard, but I think that in society, if we learn to appreciate the differences in people and stop trying to make them assimilate into whatever our culture is, and be open to learning about different cultures, and not think that just because I know somebody from that culture that I know everything about that culture, just be open and willing to learn, then I think we could reach that harmonious state in society.
Okay. So for those that are in the mental health profession, what advice would you give them? What tips, or what are some practical steps to embrace cultural humility within the concept of the mental health field?
For one, get rid of the hierarchy, okay? Get rid of coming into the space of, I'm going to tell you how to fix your life, right? This, to be open, to allow yourself to open yourself up some. Don't let it be so one-sided. Again, these people are very vulnerable, and I think if you just open yourself up and are not so closed off, that you'll be able to be more successful in helping the individual. Realize that you have biases. That's another big thing. Everybody has biases. Some of them are conscious, some of them are unconscious. So to really work on yourself constantly as you are working with other people, and recognizing what those biases are, so that you can be able to check them, or be able to see how they affect how you look at the individual that you're working with. First you need to know. So I use this thing called AAA, right? And it's not who you call when your car is on the side of the road, and it's not a battery, but it stands for awareness, acknowledgement, and action. So first you need to become aware of what your biases are. You need to become aware of what your potential prejudices or discriminatory preferences, things like that. Once you have that awareness, you have to acknowledge it. You can just say, oh yeah, I know I have biases and everything, but if you're not acknowledging it, then you're not going to get anywhere. So once you acknowledge it, then you'll be able to take the action to make change, and to be able to better, the different systems that you're working in.
Okay. Do you think sometimes we need others to help us identify our biases?
Yes, definitely. Again, you have to be open to that, though. I think we get very defensive when someone might try to point something out that you may not realize. And, it's a thing called constructive criticism. So it's a matter of how it's presented to you, as to how you will receive it. But I think, effective communication is when you hear, listen, and receive what the other person is saying before you are ready for your rebuttal, right? And I think where we fall short is the receiving part. It's like, I heard what they said, I was listening, but as soon as you hear something that is not in tune with what you think, then you're already thinking about your rebuttal, and you have missed whatever else the person is saying. So I think if we receive more what other people are saying, then we will be more open to, getting help from other people. Nobody knows everything, so you can definitely gain from other people helping you to identify what those biases are. And they're also I encourage everyone to look up the um, implicit bias. If you just Google it. Harvard has the implicit bias test, where it looks at different categories where you'd be amazed at what your biases are just through going through this test. I was amazed by certain things, so I encourage everybody to do that as well.